Around can go for me. Sorry, John, let me do this real quick. You have an agenda over there for yourself and then. Okay, so starting with the roll call, alphabetical order. Ryan Campbell,
Present.
reading John Collins.
Present.
Okay, Dean Costello,
Present.
Bert Kramer,
Present.
Kim Larkin, present. Steve Chappelle,
Present.
and Clyde Wilbur.
Present.
Hey, the first item on the agenda is a public hearing. Before we begin that, I want to point out to everyone that there is an agenda available. And if you would like to speak, please let us know. I'll allow that, sign your name, all that, so we know that's going to happen. So I'll jump right into the public hearing. This is a public hearing for Wetlands Board Permit 5801 River Drive, Lorton, Virginia Green Sources Commission number 240345, tax map 122-2 to 0017. Point out that the procedures for this are a little formal, so I'll go through that a little bit so everybody has at least a little bit of feeling of what's going on. The first item on the agenda is for members of the Wetlands Board to introduce themselves. I think we can skip that because you all just went through a roll call. These are the Wetlands Board members. Staff is Catherine Herman from Fairfax County Department of Planning. I don't believe we have anyone here from VIMS today, correct? But we do have a representative on VMRC. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Khadija Payne from Virginia Marine Resources.
It's a little silly, but Catherine Herman, can you please call the roll for the hearing?
Sure, of course. We'll start again alphabetically, last name, so that is again, Brian Campbell,
Present.
John Collins,
Present.
Dean Costello,
Present.
Bert Kramer, Kim Larkin, present. Steve Chappelle,
Present.
Clyde Wilbur.
Present.
So the next item is disclosure. I've asked the board members if they have any disclosures or recusals for this particular permit. Hearing none, I'll move on. The next item is to state the declared purpose. It is declared purpose and public policy of the Commonwealth to preserve wetlands and to accommodate necessary economic development in a manner consistent with wetlands preservation. The Wetlands Board was established to protect the public interest from public health, safety, and the economic and general welfare of the Commonwealth, to protect public and private property, wildlife, marine fisheries, and the natural environment. So there are 4 purposes of the hearing: to receive staff, VIMS, and VMRC comment, to receive applicant explanation, receive public input, and then for the board to make a decision, if possible. But there was an 8-step process associated with this. First, the staff will give a report on the application. The board then free to ask questions of the staff. The applicant then is called upon to give any presentation or comments they wish to give. The board can then question the applicant. The third item is to ask for any supporting or opposing statements, if any. After that is done, rebuttals may be made by the applicant. And at that item after that, the public portion of the hearing may, at the board's option, either be closed or held over. Assuming it is not held over, the public portion of the public hearing will be closed. The hearing will continue for the Wetlands Board to discuss and consider a decision, and then the overall hearing is closed. Okay, with that, I will move to ask Catherine Herman to present the staff report.
So the location of this application and at 5801 River Drive in Norton, which resides right on the Potomac River where the red dot is shown. Before we discuss the particulars of the proposed riprap project, there's some additional information about this property worth mentioning. The residential structure was built in 1961. According to the Fairfax County Historical Aerial Imagery, there was a wooden wall-like structure at the shoreline in 1997, which was in place until about 2013. After 2013, portions of the wooden wall seem to have just somewhat eroded away or were replaced with some placement of riprap. There is an existing interior retaining wall, which is shown as a green line and is located upland or landward on the property in the RPA, or the Resource Protection Area. As a reminder, or as a note, that this wooden wall where the green line is not located in the Wetlands Board jurisdiction. The property owner has approval from Fairfax County Land Development Services to improve other portions of the property within the RPA. The county and BMRC have no previous wetland permit files for the existing riprap or the older wooden wall-like structure at the shoreline. So the blue line is an approximate location of where that older wooden structure was in the late 1990s and into the 2000s, based on my research. So I have 8 images across 3 slides here to show you some of the existing conditions from photos taken at the site in March, along with the Virginia Marine Resources Commission. In some of the photos, you'll see remnants of the old bulkhead and some of the existing riprap that exists along the shoreline in one location. The left and center image show a temporary erosion control fencing from the project that's being done in the RPA. But I wanted to show these images to show that the steep slope on the site is visible. And the steep slope approximately extends from the mean low water to the upland areas of the RPA, which are outside of the tidal wetlands jurisdiction. On the day that the photos were taken, it was low tide. So you'll see that most of the existing timber logs, riprap, and old bulkhead had some water hitting these features. Keeps flashing up. Okay. Let me just keep moving forward and we can come back to some of the images if we need them. As mentioned in the applicant's permit submission and the staff report, there's existing riprap along a portion of the shoreline. The total shoreline is about 150 feet long. However, there's a 60-foot section of the shoreline. Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you. Like I'm looking this way. So anyway, the total shoreline is 150 feet long. There's a 60-foot section that will remain unchanged due to the presence of existing riprap. Therefore, the project will have approximately 540 square feet of new riprap. I have another image of this area with the existing riprap in a separate slide. And then this last image just shows 2 more photos that were taken on site. Okay.
Katie,
Yes.
was there an estimated date when ground was placed there? Or you just know it's after like 2013 or something?
Yeah, I might be able to take a look at that in the background.
No,
Um,
just keep your head up without getting.
Okay, so when we look at the image here, the Potomac River is now on the top of the graphic, not the bottom. So just put this in your mind. This image is showing, is from the site design work that was done for the RPA that the applicant shared with staff. And there's an image of that submission which shows the existing conditions. You can see the location of that existing interior wall where the green line is. And that this image also includes the location of the existing riprap, which is in pink box. Hopefully doesn't show up as pink. Weird. Just this pink here. All right. It's essentially this area right here in between these two yellow line segments. I swear it's pink on my screen. As well as this also shows the approximate location of the old bulkhead, again shown. This image was sealed by a wetlands professional in 2021 because it was part of the package that was used for all the stormwater and other vegetative project that was part of the RPA for the rest of the property. So I just kind of borrowed this so we could get a better look at the site. However, this image does not include the information for the project that's occurring at the tidal wetlands, such as mean high, mean low, NOAA elevations, and any other details of the current shoreline conditions. Here's a zoomed in image of that. And again,
If I may ask, is the retaining wall proposed? Is it a part
no, it's
of existing wall?
Mhm.
Green is existing wall. Thank you.
so if we move forward. One second, let me catch up. All right, here's another view of the property submitted with the JPA application. Again, we're going to reflip ourselves where the Potomac River is on the bottom of the image. Again, the shoreline's 150 feet long. A 60-foot section of the shoreline would remain unchanged to riprap that's already existing. Again, I wish the pink box was showing up, but here's a zoomed in version. As shown in the orange lines, the riprap would be placed potentially somewhere between mean high and mean low, and would be 6 feet in width and 3 feet in total height. The new riprap would be placed via a boat and barge with an excavator setting the stone with filter fabric used underneath the newly placed riprap. The applicant plans to keep the keep the project within the property boundaries and has explained that no tie-in to adjacent properties is needed. There is established riprap on both sides of the property boundary here on the adjacent properties. Due to the existing riprap in this area, again, this is the grade area, it's existing, so it's grayed out. So due to the existing riprap in this area, timber wood from the river is being washed up onto the shore, and the remnant old wooden bulkhead. Because of these things, county and VMRC staff agree that this is a non-vegetated wetland because we've got some existing riprap. We have a whole bunch of old timber that's being washed up on the shoreline, and then there's like the old remnants of the wooden bulkhead that was previously there. So we did not find evidence of any tidal plants. Okay, so the application that was submitted to VMRC included this cross-section. This image is for a section of the shoreline that's proposing the new riprap and anticipates achieving the 2-to-1 slope. However, when comparing this cross-section to the previous image that was shown a minute ago, there may be some contradictory information being presented because this image shows the mean high and mean low proposed at and within the new riprap location, but this cross-section includes a different makeup where it's showing the riprap kind of outside of that jurisdiction. But this cross-section, isn't drawn to scale. So this is a component that could use some further clarification. We did get confirmation from the applicant that the project does not extend into the state's jurisdiction below mean low water. Have that information. Again, at the request of the applicant and the property owner, they have asked for an expedited public hearing date. So I did my best to evaluate this application based on the information that was provided to me. So we have the public hearing tonight. I wanted to just mention this image as well. So back in March, a couple weeks after we saw the site, during the site visit, we followed up with the applicant and asked that additional encroachment information be provided for the tidal wetlands. That is the box in green there, where it was a comment from county staff at BMRC that we'd like to see that information in red filled out. However, additional information wasn't submitted. So the location of the riprap to mean high and mean low for the Wetlands Board jurisdiction is a little unclear in my mind. But for the purposes of the public hearing, with all that being said, the summary of the recommendations or the thoughts that I put into the staff report, for the first bullet there, the potential for a living shoreline, there's the discussion from the applicant, which is in the italics. Here is their response of why a living shoreline, wouldn't really be feasible here. There's a very long fetch at this property, so there's the potential for strong winds and waves for the shoreline. And this is also supported by the last two bullets that are shown there of VIMS's information that's available on their websites and their, scientific research that provides recommendations on how to, what kind of measures are appropriate for shorelines such as this. And again, that was further discussed in the staff report. For the additional considerations that I have listed here, see here. So there could be, again, a little bit of contradictory information on the location of the riprap versus mean high, mean low. We are still missing some information regarding existing and proposed grade elevations and slope, water levels calculated by NOAA, and any kind of bathymetric elevations that are minus the 1 foot mean low water elevation. Again, this is all information that VMRC and their guidelines say that can be included in applications. See here. So the only other thing I wanted to say about the potential for living shorelines and what's proposed here is that the stability of that existing interior wall, that green line, which is upland of the shoreline, could be impacted by erosion, by the lack of erosion control measure. If something is not done at this shoreline, it could cause additional potential instability in the future inland. And it's generally understood that significant grading, could be done in this area to promote a living shoreline. However, it could, that action of regrading such a steep slope could compromise that existing interior wall that is also supporting other built features on the site, like a pool, a patio, things of those nature that I think went into my thought process on the stability that might be needed at the shoreline. Something else to consider was I included in my staff report some information about the county's wetlands mitigation and compensation policy. Again, that policy says that the mission of that is to achieve no net loss of jurisdictional tidal wetlands. And the policy states that unavoidable tidal wetlands impacts shall be compensated. So if you're looking at the full gamut of what potentially could be impacted at the site, you have 90 linear feet of shoreline as part of this comprehensive project. And then based on the elevations that were provided by the applicant that are shown kind of in the italics at the bottom, there's the potential for a little more than 3 feet of encroachment. Again, that would be channelward of mean low or upland of mean low. So that could be upwards of 280 square feet of impact multiplied by the fee that is included in that policy. So I just have that as information if the board wants to hear more about that. And then,
If you hold there for just a moment. To point out some of the issues associated with it, suppose having come from the applicant. You're using the vertical distance between mean high and mean low. The application indicates a 2-to-1 slope. So the 3.17. 2 is 2 times that. Now, that is the projection at an angle. So the actual horizontal exposure is someplace between 3.17 and twice that. Or if we interpret it to be the actual slope itself, it's twice this. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. However, all that said, we're imposing our own view on this as opposed to having the applicant actually tell us what the exposure is. Thank you.
Can I ask whether, so that formula comes from the policy?
$28 a square foot.
Well, they're using length times vertical instead of length times width.
Doesn't,
Okay. Okay.
just doesn't say that.
Okay.
We found another place where we can be confused.
Okay.
again, that was just to capture distance of how long your distance is from mean high to mean low. On a vertical scale to try to, kind of make that, but. And then this is the last slide I have prepared, which is just a full gamut of potential considerations for the permit as the permit would be written. And we've done the Wetlands Board has done this before where there's conditions that are placed on the permit. We can walk through those, but I did want to say overall staff is supportive of the placement of riprap for this project because of the steep slopes on site and the likelihood of strong winds and waves impacting the shoreline. I kind of agree that additional information could be provided prior to signing the wetlands permit. And that, these are conditions that we've seen in the past for previous permits like this as well. So one thing that I have put in my staff report is, although it's referenced here, having a PE of record, consult on this project. You can probably get some good elevations for mean high and mean low from a surveyor, depending on the comfortability of that surveyor to provide that. Okay, that is summary of my staff report.
Catherine, if you could, your item number 3.
Yes.
Lists the whole series, a checklist of items that are required. I take it that these are from the VMRC guidelines, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, so A through E are specific items called for in the VMRC guidelines. We do not yet have in the application. F is just related to calculating the very number that we've been discussing here. Ask the applicant to say, how many square foot is it?
Would we provide any guidance there? Because I've typically I know we've, this has come up in the past, and I've wondered about it. Calculating length on height seems unusual for square footage. Usually used height volumes.
So
Do we provide that guidance to them and say, here's how to calculate it?
So the board, no. If you asked me, it would be the two of them. Well, I think the proper place to obtain that guidance would be from PIMS or EMRC. Or, you know, if you're using a professional engineer, they can figure it out.
Did we get any comments from them or from the shoreline erosion folks or any of that?
You mean by comments, like, or just, they don't,
Concerns or just,
I did not reach out to them.
okay.
Consultation on this.
And you report, okay. I'd like to make kind of an opening term and statement.
I have one question for you, sir.
Sure, sure.
Okay. Your site visit, when was that?
That was March 6th, I think was the date.
Okay. In which you said you saw no vegetated wetlands or evidence of prior years' growing seasons vegetated. Okay.
So my intention is to make this statement and then open it up for further questions and comments from the board. Stop it until you're all done. So first of all, it's the chair's hope that the issues that have been raised here can be addressed in the permit rather than disapproving the application. There are a whole series of issues that have been raised here that make it frankly difficult to approve the permit as applied. But I think that we can write a permit that would be possible for you to consider passing. It's certainly up to the board, but I think we can get through this. The permit process up to this point has been very long and arduous, starting with incorrect and or false statements in the original application that have not been corrected by the applicant. Plan view clearly shows construction in tidal wetlands. However, that horizontal view shows all the work not in that area. Both cannot be true. The application before us includes limited information to confirm the area in which the mitigation can actually be determined. Further, there's no information in the submittal to indicate the revetment is structurally designed for the shoreline segment in question. This is a requirement of the BMRC guidelines. So structural designs in Virginia typically require certification by a professional engineer. PE certification has been acquired by the Fairfax County Wetlands Board for previous projects. Where the chair is most concerned about the calculating of the mitigation fee and the confirmation that the design is structurally appropriate under the BMRC guidelines. So in addition, I'll point out that we typically require the meeting of federal, state, and other kinds of regulations, which Catherine is recommending. However, I am concerned in this particular case that the revetment itself may fall under the county code for retaining wall permitting. Now, this is not something that we would typically put in a permit, requiring a permit. The general language covers that, but I will ask staff to carefully coordinate with LDS to confirm whether or not the permittee here has to obtain a retaining wall permit, which is a separate process from the wetlands. Not saying that is required, it's not the purview of the Wetlands Board. I'm just asking that that be coordinated and assured. And with that, I'd like to turn back to the board and ask if you have any additional questions.
I had two. One of them to clarify what you just said. Is that because of the overall height of the riprap?
So there are two, again, outside of our jurisdiction, not something that we can really impose or not. But there are two types of retaining wall permits, one for under, one for over.
1 to 3 doesn't require.
It does, it still does. But it's a different kind of permit application. Both are required, but you know, my knowledge, the first time we're approving a retaining wall like this without a PE certification, which we've had in the past. So it leaves that question open. I'm not suggesting that we require a Fairfax County permit, just that staff coordinate with LDS on the
The second one, towards the end of the packet, there's a diagram of the site which includes what appears to be a pier that doesn't appear on any of the other diagrams. What is that? Is there a pier that's part of this? Is that outside the scope? Is,
So, be right here. This is the proper question.
yeah, so there's a pier next door. I saw that, but on this diagram, you've got what appears, there's the two piers, but then there's this thing, which is computer generated.
So I think after
Yeah.
maybe an initial site visit and discussion with VMRC, the applicant decided to pull the pier piece out of this application and submit it to VMRC separately as a separate application because it would bypass this wetlands board and it would just needed a permit from VMRC because it would be a pier.
Kevin, do we know how tall this is? We don't, because this drawing doesn't tell me anything about.
Can I interject a little bit of information?
Not yet.
But what you're talking about has.
Get to it. We will get to
There's
it.
no wall. You will get. No
Just a
wall.
moment. I've got a process I gotta go through.
No
Okay.
wall.
Like, what is the bank? So you were at the site. How tall is the bank when you're standing at mean low? Like, what is that?
It's pretty steep. I think in my report, I said there's a distance of from like essentially more or less that blue line to the green line is like 20 feet. The elevation change is like 12 feet between that 20-foot distance. It's,
Any other questions? Okay, we have further questions after the applicant made his statement. So, would the applicant, representative please step forward? We'd like to hear a statement from you all.
Chick, how are you?
Very good. Could you state your name?
Craig Schick.
So Craig,
Greg, Greg.
pleased to meet you, Craig.
Nice to meet you.
So, I think to swear you in.
Okay.
All right, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. I just want to give you a little bit of background on this project because I don't think the background's really been depicted here. So this actually started over 5 years ago. So we got involved with the county over 5 years ago and began the process of, so one reference before I even say that, when I bought the property in 2019, 2020, that riprap that was put in 2012 was done by the previous owner who passed away and I purchased the residence. So VMRC, the county, at the time, it wasn't Catherine Herman at that time, another person came out, said, you know, what about this riprap? They dismissed any cases against me because I wasn't the owner of the property at the time. So that riprap was there. And as it's shown on the drawings that you're looking at, it's not that vast. It's much smaller. It doesn't stick out beyond the proposed riprap. It's actually much smaller. So I would say there's only about 4 or 5 feet of it from, it just comes down the existing bank where the retaining wall, seaward of where the, landward of where the retaining wall, not the retaining wall, the bulkhead was. Okay, so just to address that. But this project started 5 years ago, and it includes extensive site plans that have been gone over by the county engineers, my engineers over the last 5 years. In fact, we've spent over $250,000 on this backyard. It's been completely regraded. There's been over 350 plants put in. The retaining wall was removed. The grading and slope was brought up to the county standards, who've been inspecting it weekly for the last year. So this is not just something I just like randomly came up with. Is the way as a bystander, I'm listening to it and I'm thinking like, this just kind of like came up. That's not the case at all. This is 5 years of work by my engineers, the county's engineers. And frankly, I'm kind of confused that it's taken the wetlands board this long to get involved. And then I saw, my other comment is I saw this fee up there for $8,000. Like I'm already $80,000 into this permit. And I've also paid a conservation agreement. I guess they told me to pay some guy up in the Chesapeake Bay to plant something so that I'm a good guy. I don't know. That was several $1,000s. The slope is 2-to-1. That's what the county asked for. And I tried to stop the county from making it such an extreme slope by adding retaining walls. They wouldn't listen to my logic. So, I mean, that was part of the fight over the last 5 years. I just gave up all the fight. I said, okay, county wins. I'm just going to pay what I have to pay. And that's where we are today. The photos you saw, the site is much improved from there. I have a few photos you can see if you want to see it. But it's a very nicely graded slope, no retaining wall whatsoever. So there's nothing about the retaining wall. And I think they mentioned also that some info wasn't provided. And I received an email from Shoreline on 5/23 updating that info. Additionally, I'm concerned about this because when Catherine first came out in March, I said, how long is this going to take? Because I've spent $250,000 on this yard and I want to make sure that this slope is protected. I have to live here. Like, how long is this going to take? She said about a month or two. It's been 6 months since then. And I've been urging the county to get this meeting together, going all the way to the top of the county, trying to get this meeting held. And this is the first opportunity we've had. So I'm 5 years and 6 months into this permit and have spent in excess of, I don't want to say it again, but $250,000 on this backyard. So I want to move this forward. It's not like we haven't done anything. I spent over $80,000 in drawings. So the county the Wetlands Board could have come in at any time, had the county brought them in and approved this years ago, not even months ago. And I've been urging that my biggest concern here is that it's taken 6 months to get this because that's affecting the work that's already in place and finished. The contractor, LCS Site Services, started the work about 7 months ago, finished about 3 months ago. The only piece missing to get the county approval is this riprap. And along the while, this, the shore is just beating at the work we did and potentially destroying the work we did. So this has to be approved. It's not like it's even a question at this point. I mean, if we wanted to rebuke the riprap, we should have done it 4 years ago when the plans were being constructed. That's all I have, I think.
The plans were perfectly county required.
Yeah, I mean, the county's approved everything. They're just waiting on the riprap.
The missing info that Catherine said she was missing on the drawings was provided to her on 5/23.
I would like to swear you in before you make a statement, if you won't mind. Hold up for a minute. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
When you say, why didn't the county bring us in earlier? Are you referring to an LDS?
Yes.
The RPA folks?
Yes.
When you said that you plural, have resloped the back. When
Yes.
did that happen? Because it appears that that's not the case on some of the images that we've seen.
The grading didn't start until, it actually started prior to her visit,
Mhm.
but the retaining wall couldn't be removed until after her visit.
Mhm.
The problem is the coordination between the riprap and the grading.
Mhm.
So really, the riprap should have gone first, in my opinion, or at least at the same time as the grading, so they could flow in together. You're talking about a big slope. So we did the best we could to put underground things there to hold that bank so he could finish his grading. So that's all been completed. And I have photos.
Okay, so that's all been done.
It's all done. Their work is completely done with the exception of, we had to put underground structures in per the county to hold that dirt long enough to get the riprap in.
Oh, there's cross pieces and things like that.
Yeah, just long enough to get the riprap, because the riprap is what's gonna butt, the slope's coming down like this. The riprap's gonna come in like this, hold the bank, which is about, I don't know, 2-3 feet high down there.
At the toe of the slope.
Yes,
Got it.
The site plan that's on here was submitted to the county.
sorry?
This site plan was submitted to the county as part of a county plan submission.
The county has been very involved in this, and there's 5 different engineers in the county been working on it
And
5 years.
the area of riprap in there was a surveyed area of riprap by your engineer or surveyors?
I don't know why they depicted it that way on the plan. But this picture shows it kind of accurately. You're saying the bulkhead is the yellow line. So I would say that would be fairly accurate.
Okay.
But there's another photo they showed where it looks like goes way beyond where the proposed riprap will go. And that's not the case. The proposed riprap will actually be a little further, I believe, than what the existing riprap is.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
So in your response, one of the emails you were asked for more information, and one of the questions was about regrading, and you say there's no proposed grading. But on one.
I didn't, those aren't my responses. That's probably Shoreline Services. That's the applicant, not mine.
Okay. So the diagram that shows the riprap with some grading.
I mean, I no doubt signed that, but maybe I did. I don't.
They're saying is this.
That one.
Part of our project.
So this does include regrading as shown here.
No,
Or
No,
that's already done.
it's done.
That's already done.
The riprap has nothing to do with the regrading.
So the only piece that's being discussed here is it's labeled 3x6 riprap area. Is that correct? So the area where it's 3 foot high, 6 foot wide riprap.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That-
I don't see where you all were talking a lot about this retaining wall. And I just don't see the point because there's no retaining wall. So
I don't know if it's proper to respond to that, but I think what you're suggesting is that the LDS might view the pile of rock as a retaining wall.
Not what he's about to build.
Correct.
Yes.
And I think the
No, I-
suggestion is not that we would have any jurisdiction over that, but just that it would be wise to confirm that they're not going to come after you later.
But I'm not asking them to do that.
Correct.
I'm asking,
would you like a copy of the grading plan sent to you?
no, out of our purview. It's not in our title. I'm just making sure that add to the confusion, the Wetlands Board is staffed by the Department of Planning. LDS is who we've been working with. It's a different part of the county.
I understand. I'm a contractor.
I wish I did too. So before I stop, any more questions? So I do want to make a kind of a statement here. I want to say my goal here is to get you this permit tonight. But there are requirements that we're stuck with. And the original permit application has errors and contradictions that have not been corrected. So I'm looking for a path to do that. And the list that Catherine gave us here, I think is the path to do that. So there's a submission of certain things. Where is mean high water? Where is mean low water? An actual scale drawing of the wetlands. That's not in the record here. The record application that unfortunately you signed says there are no tidal wetlands here. That original application says 0 tidal wetlands. I can't ask the board to approve that without a means of fixing it. But I think we can do that. Particularly if you have engineers on staff that can respond to this. I don't think this is a terribly difficult project to approve. This is a straightforward riprap project.
Yeah.
And frankly, had the application included all the required information, you would have had that permitted too.
The existing riprap is actually exactly in line with the existing wall.
Yeah,
I have a photo right here.
I'm not worried about the existing riprap. I'm worried about two principal things.
Sounds like you're just worried about the procedural things.
I got to get through the procedural things, and I have to figure out how to calculate the mitigation fee. I think we're stuck with that.
Why do I have to pay a mitigation fee after all this fees I paid?
Because there's been a taking of tidal wetlands, but the board will discuss that.
There wouldn't have been if they would have allowed me to do this 5 years ago.
Yeah, they would.
There wouldn't have been any tidal wetlands missing. It wasn't eroded.
Yeah, but the
It took
previous
5.5 years to get it.
previous owners placed riprap without a permit
How is that anything to do with me?
because you now have a permitting project. But wait, the board is going to discuss this.
Uh-huh.
I think you're making an argument that you shouldn't have to pay this fee.
I don't think I should pay the fee.
Okay, and so take a moment. tell us why you think you shouldn't. I need to get things on the record.
Yeah. So I had nothing to do with the 2012 placing of the riprap. The Wetlands Board came out at that point, and I believe VMRC and the gentleman from, I think he was from VMRC, he came down from Richmond, and they accused me of placing the riprap. After arguments back and forth and some lawyers calling each other and this and that in a second meeting, they said nothing required, no issue, not his issue. County dropped it, the Wetlands Board dropped it, state dropped it. Okay, that was in 2019 or 20. Okay, so I don't feel I should pay for anything to do with that. And if you're saying that I have to pay because the shoreline was as eroded, I've been trying to stop it from eroding for 5.5 years. The county has made it impossible. And it's eroded even further in the 6 months that I waited for Catherine's office to get this meeting. So, I mean, it shouldn't take 6 months to get a meeting, in my opinion.
So, look, I don't want to argue with you about these conditions, but I do want to have you understand that a large part of the delay on the Wetlands Board side is the inaccuracies, the conflicts.
I disagree with you,
that
sir.
are in the application.
I disagree with you, sir.
So the application says that there are 0 side wetlands. That's what it says. And if that was the case, you wouldn't need a permit from us at all.
I've been a contractor for 44 years, okay? And if I had a problem such as a permit application, I would have it resolved in 1 day between the county, not 6 months.
Well,
And I'm not arguing with you, sir. I'm just telling you that I've been a contractor 40 years. And in all of my 40 years, I've probably pulled 6,000, 7,000 permits. And I have never once pulled a permit this difficult.
I accept your comment. So let me ask you.
And I think I've paid enough.
Let me ask you, it's not required, it's kind of up to you. Do you want your contractor representative to testify?
I don't know what's in my best interest or not, but
It's like,
I would assume yes.
okay,
Yeah, I don't know enough about the permits in the wetlands. I'm a master electrician, master plumber, master HVAC, master builder, but I'm not a master wetlands guy. So I don't know anything about the wetlands. I know about building construction. But I just really, more strongly than anything, I want to say, thank you all for your time. But hopefully in the future, it can be improved and not take 5.5 years. And maybe the Wetlands Board should have been involved by the county 5 years ago, not 6 months ago.
yes. Well, I will tell you that it's unusual, but we happen to have 2 representatives from LDS with us.
I know them quite well.
Yes. Okay.
Who's here?
Jan Levitt Shaw and Sandra O'Connell.
Don't know either of those people.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Do you, anything else you would like to say to us?
So I appreciate all of your time and I just want to get this approved so we can
Understood.
protect what you're trying to protect.
Very good.
We're on the same, we have the same goal. Thank you.
Mr. Martin, the applicant has given you to testify.
Swearing in,
State your name.
Brad Martin.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Again, we've got some misinformation here to the board. The calculations in the new mean high, mean low water marks were included on an email sent to Khadijah Payne and Catherine Herman on May 23rd, 2024 at 8:17 a.m. So they should have that. And I think that was the only thing. There are some reoccurring things that I've heard here, such as scaled drawings required by VMRC. That's incorrect. You guys can check page 2 of all the JPAs that have ever been submitted, and it'll tell you. It says vicinity map, U.S. topographical road map or similar showing project location. You have it. Plan view drawing overhead to scale or with dimensions clearly marked. You have it. Section view drawing, side view to scale or with dimensions clearly marked. You have it. There were a list of questions that were emailed over about this, and they were all answered. And I would assume that was also on May 23rd, but I don't have the exact date. So we would just ask that you approve this. I think some conditions are fine. I don't think that you need or are entitled to more engineering. This is a simple, as you said, simple riprap project. And as far as the permit for a retaining wall, I think you said, we can refer to Catherine and see if she's looked into that, or Maria can do it, or anyone can do it. I don't think that's going to be required, but due diligence would be pretty smart. Any questions?
I'd like to ask the board, do you have any questions for Mr. Martin?
How are you gonna access to put the riprap on there?
Barge and boat.
How deep is that water? Cause I see us like,
So it's gonna be tricky. We're gonna have to load and come in at high tide, put it off the barge and go out at low tide when you're not empty, because yes, we will just be displacing 40 tons plus the weight of the equipment. However, with the weight of the equipment on the particular barge we're gonna use here, we only draw 8 inches. We also have 40 feet of reach with the excavator.
So you think you can do that without disturbing the vegetation that's there?
Oh, yeah.
How would you think it'll take to do the placement? Assuming.
One barge load only takes a few hours to load,
Right.
but a few hours to unload. However, with the tides, the travel time, from loading from port to port is wow. We would probably be safe with 30 days. Coming into hurricane season, that could change too. But 30 working days should be sufficient.
Any more questions?
Yeah, so you said you have all the information that was noticed missing. I mean, from my
I
side,
do not have it. It was sent on May 23rd.
it was sent, so
It
it
was
was sent from. Can you resend that if it is in fact still in existence? Because
Absolutely. I'm sure it's
that's the
in,
missing information that it's hard for us to make a decision around.
So
I,
in your design, did you take into hydraulic conditions, wayfind, storms, etc.? How did you choose the riprap size?
20 plus years of experience with riprap and shoreline work.
It's not structurally designed, it's just your,
Riprap doesn't
it's just your
typically
experience.
require a structural engineer.
Fortunately, the MRC guidelines require a
No,
structural,
No, they don't.
okay? Fine, that can be,
If they do, please show me the page and
happy to show it to you at a later date. But it does require.
it's not listed in the JPA, in the Norfolk area JPA.
I didn't say it was, I said it's required in the BMRC guidelines. And this is a very long fetch where the coastal design is quite important. So, any other, well, one more question. In the original JPA, and actually in the JPA that we still have, you list 0 tidal wetlands.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Any other questions? All right.
Yeah, quick comment. So if that's a mistake, do you have the correct information about that?
We have the correct information.
Yes, we sent it on the 23rd.
Can you send that?
Gadisha has it and Catherine has it. And the thing says page 17. Then on the 31st, I sent her the rest of the information. So she has it. And VMRC has it too.
So, any other questions? Okay, thank you. You will have a chance later for one more statement, but I'm
Appreciate it. Thanks.
going to ask, are there any letters of support? Do we have any letters of support for the application? Do we have any letters of opposition? Does anyone want to make a statement of support for the application? Other than the people that have spoken. Okay, hearing none. There doesn't seem to be anything to rebut, so we'll skip that over. I ask the board if you have any further questions. Okay, the next item is to discuss the different criteria the board has to consider. That is public detriment, public benefit, private detriment, both in economic and ecological terms. So I'd first like to open up to public detriment. And the principal public detriment, as I would see here, is the potential loss of wetlands. And I use that word potential somewhat based on what we've just heard here. So we have a condition where there is going to be more or less a loss of wetlands. However, it is an existing condition for the applicant. And I'd like to hear people talk about how you feel about that. I'm going to go around on this one. Do you think that there is a public detriment, John, associated with approving this permit?
I think that's a slightly different question than you were asking a second ago.
Okay, you can answer any way you want.
So to the question of whether the prior loss of wetlands should be addressed, I don't believe so. I think that getting people to submit JPAs is a net positive, getting people to participate in the process. And to go back a decade to the prior owner and spring a nasty surprise on them for trying to comply, I think that's counterproductive. I think that the fact that we're engaging here is a good thing. I think you can argue that there's a public detriment here, but I should have that page up.
It's about 100 plantings going in the riprap.
Yeah, it doesn't,
It's depicted in the site plan and required by the county. There's plantings all throughout the riprap.
yeah, that's the one. So it is hard to see from that. I think that's a slice of the biggest difference, height difference. Based on one of the grading plans, it looked like there wasn't nearly as much height on some of the riprap. And it's not clear that much actual wetlands is being lost. I think there is some detriment in that regard, but not significant.
I'm sorry, John, I want to suspend this portion of the hearing and return to the applicant. I did not see anything in this application indicating plantings.
They're in the site plan.
They're not.
Yes.
No, this is confusing.
It's in the grading plan
But
that
they're not in the application to the Wetlands Board. The reason this is important is, shall I say it, that would be elements of a living shoreline. And if you are proposing elements of a living shoreline, the Wetlands Board is open to waiving mitigation.
Okay?
If you
Well,
have information.
The gentleman, Kevin from LDS, bought the plants 6 months ago. They've been in his warehouse. They have to repurchase them because they've died, just so you know. But the county requires them for their final approval.
So could I comment? So, I think some of your frustration, if I'm hearing it correct, is that you're dealing with the county and now another county board is having to review all this.
You'd be accurate.
Yes. There's not typically a line of communication where an application from RPA goes to them and then we get all the information.
There should be.
That may be so. And I think Clyde's comment about the retaining wall was precisely to help make sure if another department needs to hear that can get sent back to them so you're not bounced around. Because we don't typically have those lines of communication and there probably should be there.
Yeah.
But just because it was submitted to LDS does not mean that we get it.
Maybe someone from LDS should attend these meetings.
And I think one other thing you should be aware of is that LDS is county staff. We are.
I'm aware.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm sitting over here listening to the retaining wall and the slope. It's all inaccurate. Because those drawings aren't being brought in and I have the drawings right here if you'd like to see.
No, believe me, that's LPS's job.
There's plantings going in throughout the riprap.
What do you,
Go ahead, Steve.
when you say it's in the riprap, could you,
They're placing them in tubes in the riprap.
So they're the
Am I
stakes,
accurate in
right?
that?
They're live stakes, right?
that's part of the.
Yes, live stakes.
Live
That's what they
stakes,
call it.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
live
couldn't
stakes.
remember. I couldn't remember what they called them, but
So you got willow bundles. and
yes, live stakes.
dogwoods. Okay,
Yeah, I don't know what they are,
okay.
but they call them live stakes.
Yeah, well, just, okay, that's wonderful information.
Yeah, that's living shoreline.
If I,
That's what.
if I
We're
could-
good. We're making progress.
those were part of the approved grading plan, which was done by others. That's.
Dean?
Yeah, that's,
It sounds like there's more information that we benefit from.
Yes. And I would propose that we try to deal with this if we manage to close the public hearing and then get to recommendations.
No additional questions.
I have no additional questions at all. Let's see, where am I? We discussed public
We
detriment.
suspended, right?
Pardon?
We suspended to talk back with, so are we now back in process?
We're back on the agenda.
Okay.
Yes, so we're in the board discussion. We discussed public detriment. I would propose that there is some public benefit here by controlling erosion. And comment on that differently if you like. I don't see a private detriment. There is obviously a private benefit. Would anyone else like to discuss any of those other items?
Just real quick, the properties on both sides, I saw that they know that you're doing this.
Mhm.
What is their seaward structures?
Riprap.
They've got riprap on both sides.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
That's a public benefit. You're assisting the adjacent shoreline
Right.
from being further attacked. Okay. So I just want to mention that the board has the option to propose keeping the hearing open for 30 days, or we can close the public portion of the hearing and move to a decision on what to recommend. Does anyone want to propose keeping the hearing open?
I don't think there's any.
Hearing none, I'll move on. Let's see. Can I have a motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
I move to close.
We have a second. Public portion of the hearing is now closed, and I will move into the decision-making area here. To state to the board that you have several options here. You can grant the permit as requested. You can grant the permit in a modified form. You can grant the permit with a reasonable bond and amount and with a surety for conditions of compliance and conditions of limitations set forth in the permit. Deny the permit. You can deny the permit without prejudice, which means it can be simply returned. Or you can direct the applicant to provide information prior to final action. I will point out that if you defer a decision, we have 30 days to make a decision, and if we do not, the permit is approved as submitted. So I'd like to know if we have a motion on any of these.
I move the motion to grant the permit in a modified form. And I have this draft conditions based off of applicants.
the information we just heard.
Yeah, and yeah, there's new elements that what we can see.
Mark,
There we go.
let me have one.
I'll read through. So considering all the testimony presented at this public hearing,
If I may, just for a second. The procedure here is, Brian is going to make a motion. It will need a second. If it doesn't have a second, it fails. If we second it, we can discuss it. And during the discussion, there are two things to do. People can call to present a alternate proposal, which it just opens up a separate discussion. Or you can make what is called a friendly amendment. And if Brian, as the proposer, accepts the friendly amendment, it becomes a part of the motion. And for this evening, I would suggest I'm hoping to do that rather than it's a whole change. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. Please proceed.
thank you. Okay, so considering all the testimony presented at this public hearing, the public benefits of this proposal exceed the detriments. Therefore, I move that the Wetlands Board approve this application with the conditions. Number one, that the applicant shall meet the permitting requirements of all county, state, federal laws and regulations, including, but not limited to, the county's Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance, the Erosion and Sedimentation Control Ordinance, and the floodplain regulations of the Fairfax County zoning ordinance. Number 2, payment of mitigation fee based on $28 per square foot times the area of tidal wetlands disturbed. Number 3, a minimum of 7 days prior to the pre-construction conference, the permitted shall provide the county's, Fairfax County staff on a revised JPA stamped by a Virginia PE. Scale drawings, including plans and sectional view that includes the following: square footage of existing and resulting tidal wetland types, existing and proposed grade elevations and slope, mean high, mean low, and the 10-year storm event water levels as calculated by NOAA and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Certification that the project is designed to, 1, to mitigate coastal hazards, including storm level hydrological energy that may be reasonably be expected over the useful life of the project. And 2, is functionally resilient and structurally designed to endure the impacts of sea level rise using the 2017 NOAA Intermediate High Scenario Projection Curve, or any updated projection based on the best available science and selected through the Coastal Master Plan process. Also, existing and projected bathymetric elevations to the -1 foot mean low water elevation and the current shoreline condition of adjacent properties to include any existing treatments. Also, design stone size showing classes of riprap stone based on weight per VDOT specifications. Also, total tidal wetland losses for the purposes of calculating mitigation fee. Also, before construction photos documenting all aspects of the project. Condition 4, a pre-construction conference with the permittee, the professional engineer or PE of record, the contractor, and a member of Fairfax County staff shall be held. This conference shall be held on site within 7 days prior to the commencement of the work. It shall include a discussion of the terms and conditions of the permit. Notice shall be provided to staff for the days when construction is planned to facilitate inspection. County staff will also determine the mitigation fee. Number 5, work on the project shall not proceed until all the above items 1 through 4 is completed. Number 6, after construction photos documenting all aspects of the project shall be obtained and included in the project completion certification required below. Number 7, on completion of the project, the PE of record shall certify that the project has been completed as designed or in accordance with the permit. Failure to provide the certification prior to the end of permit duration shall be a violation of the permit. Number 8, the duration of the permit is for a period of 2 years. The Wetlands Board may grant additional time if a written request for additional time is filed with Fairfax County staff prior to the date of permit expiration with a suitable explanation for the need for delay.
I make an editorial change. I realized that there is no more the county's erosion and sediment control ordinance, that was integrated into chapter 124, which is the Ches Bay ordinance, I believe.
118.
That is, so we could just strike out that second, number 1.
So I'm going to deal with this for a moment.
Okay.
Will you accept a friendly amendment to delete the language that Catherine just mentioned?
Yes.
Okay, where is that?
Number
I
1.
mean, number 1.
We got street lines now. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Can we go ahead with other friendly amendments or before we?
Absolutely. Can I first ask that we deal with the mitigation fee? Because that's probably the most.
That was my next one that I had. So I was, because apparently there are some elements of living shorelines somewhere in some plans that we don't have privy to. I was thinking number two, in lieu of payment of mitigation fee based on $28 per square foot. Times the area of a tidal wetlands disturbed. I would recommend maybe or equivalent living shoreline elements.
Count the cost of it.
Count the cost of the living shoreline elements and the square footage of those items.
You want them to spend as much money as they would have paid on the mitigation fee?
Well, just to look at what the square footage of what they're, what because I have no idea what this thing looks like. But looking at, if we are looking at what the tidal wetland impacts are and what the living shoreline elements are, I'm hoping the square footage is close. I don't know. But some sort of equivalent, I don't know, because typically, if we've got living shoreline elements, we could just waive it. So there needs to be.
Anybody else have any other comments on this? But
Can I make a
Yeah,
comment on
absolutely.
that? Okay, so I would agree if we can somehow state it to ensure the entire area of impact is going to be covered with planting. So the mitigation fee will apply to all unplanted areas.
Okay, I'm not sure, because
So
we
would
just don't know what it looks like.
Would it make sense to phrase it as a fee which would be waived if plans are submitted with showing coverage of living
For the
shoreline?
total impact area.
Yes.
so I think what we've got here is LDS has already approved
Something.
Something.
Yeah.
something. And,
We just don't have it in hand.
do I want to argue with LDS or just say we accept what LDS proposed?
For this area?
For this purpose?
Did LDS approve for this something? Is that?
I think that's what we want to understand is that the entire area of impact is covered with plantings.
Is it?
Yes, it is. Okay, great. We approve, so how can we do this simply like this? We will delete the entire mitigation fee if the area is, entire area is covered with, what are they called, stakes?
Live stakes.
Live stakes.
Live stakes, in concert with LDS's approved plan.
Could you say that again? So we, so, yeah. So,
So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say that this first item here, the mitigation fee is waived in consideration of the installation of live stakes throughout the impact area. In accordance with the LDS approved plan discussed at the hearing.
Which would be submitted, if we can get that plan, that'll be submitted to staff. They could get us
Already been submitted.
to wetlands.
No, I'm not proposing that. I'm saying, my friendly amendment is saying, try not to make this any more
Right.
difficult than it already has been, and say that we have public testimony under sworn public testimony, that the entire area will be mitigated with live stakes. And in consideration of this, the mitigation fee is waived and the plan as already approved by LDS is sufficient. All right? All right.
yeah, I accept the friendly, unless there's any other,
In addition to that is striking the last sentence of entry number 4. County staff will determine mitigation fee.
Very good.
I think that's it.
Glad you wrote this in. Okay, let's see,
Oh, I have one more.
please.
Can we, so with the completion of the project, and, because I'm not sure if this piece has a PE of record, I guess it does, when you did the live stakes, the PE had to sign that when you guys did the
The PE
LDS
is
permit.
on the entire grading plan.
Fantastic, okay,
Probably should also be available.
yes, that should all be available.
So pending confirmation of the PE stamped.
Yeah, I don't think I want to ask pending confirmation. I just want to say, submit the PE.
Send you that drawing right now.
Yeah, yes, so I'm trying to make this easy and straightforward as possible. That, you know, basically what has to happen is that the things that we ask to be submitted, like a stamped PE drawing that has the grading. The big one we got left here is dealing with the coastal energy issue for the design of the riprap. That I think we're stuck with. You know, a contractor's experience in the past is kind of on its face inapplicable because the rules and regulations now require us to take into account climate change. So it's probably not going to be a big difference, but I don't have anything in the record that says that's being.
No worries.
Carried. Right.
Thank you.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be a terribly difficult thing for a PE to do. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, what do we have to change? I'm kind of lost.
Want me to go through?
Yes. So,
Okay, so not in number one, we're striking erosion and sedimentation control ordinance.
Yep.
Is it no longer where it's wrapped to another the for the other ordinance listed. Number two is a change to your statement of mitigation is waived consideration of the approved LES plans or equivalent to that. However, Catherine wrote it down. In number four, we're striking county staff will also determine the mitigation fee. And that is all the friendly amendments
I'd
that
like to propose an addition from the amendment. I would like to strike existing and projected bathymetric elevations to -1 foot low level, water elevations and curl and shoring conditions of adjacent properties, including any existing treatments, because we have received testimony at the hearing to that effect. I don't think we need another set of information on something for which we have received testimony.
Clyde, this is Mark Gorey. Can I just interject for a second?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? So
Yes.
I just want to clarify what happened to the erosion and sedimentation control ordinance. It was incorporated into a new chapter of the county code, which is now the erosion and stormwater management ordinance. So the ENS requirements still exist. They're just incorporated into a new ordinance. So I don't know whether you want to strike and then substitute the ENS control reference and replace it with the erosion and stormwater management ordinance.
can somebody.
Friendly amendment to
There you
do such.
Yeah, okay. Friendly amendment to amend the erosion and sedimentation control ordinance to the current ordinance. The more current ordinance. Any others?
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
So I had the one,
For everybody's identification, that was Mark Gorey. He's the county attorney that assists the Wetlands Board.
When you said two people were here from LDS,
Yes.
I thought you meant in another room across the hall.
they're online.
When the attorney spoke, I was taken back.
Title wetland losses for the purpose of calculating mitigation.
Welcome to our world.
I don't think we need it. I
They
mean,
said they have the information, we'll provide it. That's part of the things that defines it.
Or just get rid of the for the purposes of calculating mitigation fee.
Okay.
Right.
Striking for the purposes of calculation.
There you go.
Okay.
Any other comments or discussion?
For 5, do we need to edit that at all? During the. They've been edited, items 1 to 4.
They'd be 1 to 3 instead.
Yeah.
Very good.
Friendly amendment to do so.
Did we lose? No, we still have 1 to 4. Is there four?
Yeah, you two, no, we
just added it
rewrote
to-
two.
Oh, that's
We didn't
yeah,
strike
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Right. Retract the.
I would also like a general amendment that staff may edit and correct any issues of contradiction that retain the intent of the board's motion.
Accept.
Second that. Whatever it takes.
We don't actually have.
Okay.
Now we move to the question. I'm ready to call the question if there are no more comments. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Saying none. Have a permit. Painful as it was.
11.5 years.
What again?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Close the public hearing.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. All right.
Yeah.
So we do have some more Wetlands Board business, but have no need to stay. if you do not wish to.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Well, the next thing on the agenda is the all virtual meeting policy and remote participation updates.
I have hard copies if anyone wants to take it out.
Do I have a motion to approve these? I have a motion to,
I move to accept the meeting minutes. Is that what it is?
no, not the meeting.
The virtual.
Yes, the virtual meeting policy and updates.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I call the question. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Sorry.
No.
Okay. You want to do the meeting minutes? Jump that forward really quickly. Did anyone, we have 2 meeting minutes.
Yes, from January and from May.
Do I have a motion to approve both sets of minutes? Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, we're now on to the future tidal wetlands outreach. With LDS staff. Are you guys there?
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Did you listen into our wonderful meeting?
I did. Yeah, thank you guys for having us.
Were your ears burning?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, well, they should be more than a little bit. I'll leave it at that. Please go ahead with what you were going to tell us today.
Yeah. Well, hello, my name is Sandra O'Connell, and I'm with the Department of Land Development Services. And I am here today to inform you about some items that Land Development Services is doing regarding living shorelines. Your chairman, Clyde Wilbur, reached out to Land Development Services and the Department of Planning and Development about promoting living shorelines. After meeting with the directors of these 2 departments, the following action items were identified. So the first one is an optional exemption for qualified living shorelines was added to an amendment to Chapter 118, which is the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Ordinance. That amendment is working its way through the process. It's scheduled for the Planning Commission meeting on September 11th and the Board of Supervisors on September 24th. The second item that was identified was to provide training to land development staff on living shorelines. This training will be prepared in coordination with the Department of Planning and Development. and will include the processes involved in the living shoreline. And then the third item is that we're going to develop a card with information about living shorelines and the processes involved. This card would be coordinated also with the Department of Planning and Development. And this card will be mailed to property owners of tidal shoreline in Fairfax County. And it will also be available to the public if it's requested. And then the last item that's going to be done is we'll issue a letter to industry about living shorelines and the processes that are involved in getting one permitted. So that's all I have for you. And thanks again for asking us to come. And
Can I
are
ask
there
a
any?
question?
Sure.
Okay, great. So the public card that you all are developing, is that going to be available as a PDF on the website? Or is there like a section on a website that you guys are going to include for living shorelines? To me, if somebody wants to find out about it, it would be helpful if there was like a page or a whatever on the website and a PDF they can download or something like that. I don't even care if it's one of those QR code items. Yes.
Please.
Please don't.
Yeah, I mean, but if I can try to answer that, the Wetlands Board does have a series of different web pages on the county website. One which includes information about the permitting. How do I know I need a wetlands permit? Who do I contact about that? So we could
Add the living shoreline section and maybe a link to, from LDS's, you know what I mean? Like, link the two together. I think that would be very helpful. Very happy to see the exemption. I think I recommended that. Yeah. Gary.
Okay. Well,
Any other-
yeah, I think we are still working through the details of some of these, as you know, we explained. So getting this feedback from you is very helpful. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't catch the dates in which you mentioned the ordinance update.
Yes,
Two dates
so
in September.
yes. The ordinance was already authorized by the Board of Supervisors, but it's scheduled to go before the Planning Commission on, let me see, September 11th. And then it's also scheduled to go before the Board of Supervisors on September 24th.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, can you give us the deadlines and schedule for these 4 items?
So we are scheduled to complete them by the end of the year.
So let's talk for a moment about the trained LDS staff on living shorelines. I think what you saw tonight was this is more than needed. This applicant didn't even know that he needed a wetlands board permit until, you know, after 4 or 5 years. I'm assuming that LDS never told him to do that, and he just didn't know. So I think it's very important for LDS staff and the planning department really coordinate on these issues. And this training on living shorelines in particular is towards the end of speeding these permits. This current permit that took 8 months or 7 months to process, the applicant here is absolutely correct. That's way too long. We've heard testimony over and over again about how this process is just too long. And I'm looking for that training, and I'd like to see the training materials before you begin them that show we're going to speed these applications and have them run. This applicant tonight had elements of living shoreline submitted to LDS that we never saw. Now, you know, truly, he's got an incompetent contractor, and we're going to have incompetent contractors. And I am looking for the LDS and planning people to solve this problem because we're always going to have those. And the Wetlands Board goal here is different than LDS. You know, your role is permitting. Our role is getting living shorelines. And that's not gonna happen if it takes 8 months to get through a simple riprap project that has planting stakes. So I would like some commitment from you that we're actually going to train staff on both sides of the aisle here in making these living shoreline permits move quickly. Had we known that this application had elements of a living shoreline in it, this would have been a lot easier process. So definitely requires coordination. I have one more comment on this. We passed a permit here tonight. And I added at the very end, that staff is allowed to review and correct items in the permit itself. I am looking for LDS to participate in this permit. Now, you've been permitting on this site for apparently quite some time without coordinating with us. I need your staff and public works staff, and planning staff to sit down and look through the permits that you've issued and what we've issued tonight and make sure there's no more big I gotchas on this permit writer, on this applicant. If he needs to have a retaining wall permit, let's make sure you get that done with him quickly. He had no idea that might be required. And it's quite possible that LDS never mentioned it. So, clearly, we can't have applicants for living shorelines, which this is one, at least elements of a living shoreline, take 8 or 9 months to get to a hearing. It's just crazy. So that's my general comment about this. Anybody else have general comment on any of this? All right, so one more item on this. We have also outreached to the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation staff, and with the suggestion of Director Hicks, asked them to assist in actual outreach. For this training, I would like to that you're planning to do, I would like to strongly suggest that you invite the Northern Virginia staff as well, Soil and Conservation. They are much more living shoreline experts than anybody in planning or LDS. I've worked with them on a couple of projects of my own. They really know what they're doing. And most importantly, they have grant money. So I'd like to ask that you include in your training an invitation to the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District staff. And you can contact Chairman Cameron directly on that if you wish. Anybody
What
else?
was the chairman's name again?
Scott Cameron, is that correct? Yeah, Scott Cameron, yes. Or you can contact the Bill, what's Bill's last name? Probably better to contact Bill. Give us a moment.
Yeah.
We'll find it and send it to you. But
Is Bill a staff person for the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District, or is he a member of the board?
He is the director. He's not on the board.
The director?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I can find it then. Thank you.
Oh, Catherine, say.
It's Willie Wood.
Willie Wood. Yeah, oh, I know him. Yes, gotcha.
Probably, we'd be productive to contact Willie, but please make sure that Chairman Cameron knows you're doing it. Anything
Okay.
else?
It's good to.
Great to see the stuff
Yeah.
we've done.
Thank you very much. It's proceeding slowly, but it's proceeding. And I'm really glad to hear you think you can get it done by the end of the year. So that's all wonderful. Thank you very much. You can stay, or I think we're about to close the meeting in any case. So this is
All
the
right,
period
thank you.
for additional public content. And I'm not having anybody else here, so no additional public content. Does anyone else have an item they would like to discuss?
I don't know if it's worthwhile bringing up, but I talked with Supervisor Lusk about the outreach,
Yes.
and he did have a couple questions, and I talked to Katie about this. And one of the things that
he would really like to have a feel for the order of magnitude of the cost of the outreach process. And basically, as he puts it, I'm tending to support this because I think it's a good idea. But I don't also want to be blindsided by a $300,000 tab.
You have the same concern that Chairman Cameron has. So the quick answer is I don't know.
Right.
But Chairman Cameron said that he would like to begin working with the Wetlands Board and LDS and planning in September, which is next week. They made that statement back in June, but we're not here. So one of the items is to work with staff about how much it's going to cost. Now, this is about an outreach project, which Director Hicks has indicated, in my impression from talking with them at Northern Virginia, they are much more attuned to that kind of work. LDS is not an outreach kind of organization. Northern Virginia Soil Conservation is. So I'm looking to work with their director to come up with some kind of an estimate. We're not going to ask for a blind check. So if you get that.
Water director.
Yes, what I said. Sorry, soil water director, yes. Okay, very good.
The other thing is that he would like to know what kind of money or support the Virginia Conservation Assistance Program can provide.
I think the grants are 80% up to $30,000. There are some conditions where they can be a higher percentage, but I think they require agricultural content.
Okay. I don't think there's a ton of that.
I'm surprised.
Yes, yes, it would. Okay, we move on.
You know, there's Frying Pan Park, but no title wetlands.
So that is really, all right.
Well,
He'd also like to know how many properties are on tidal wetlands.
about 1,000.
Right.
Close.
Yeah, more or less. It varies on like if that's residential versus public lands.
Yeah, there's quite a bit more if you include the public land.
And the last item is that he was thinking that it would be helpful to have a general cost for completed tidal wetland related projects. Do we have anything like that?
So when we ask for proposals, we ask for an estimate of cost.
Right.
All right. This one is 30,000. Now, I'm really hesitant to say that includes the land stakes, the planting stakes, the planting stakes. You know, it can be simple as something like that, which is not going to be a lot of money. Kim, do you have the input?
I just know how much it is to buy more mitigation, but it's deep expensive these days, especially in tidal areas. In tidal areas, it's roughly 1.5 million per acre.
But that's for a full.
That's for a full mitigation purchase. It's done, it's finished, it's a bank.
So do we have a number from the Carvey Lane project
Number,
for the cost of the tidal wetland?
I could go back in the JPA, they provided an estimate. I
Yeah.
can't remember what it is though.
I think it was $250,000. But that project included sills. And I think they wanted those sills anyway, even if they weren't going to do a wetlands planning.
Right.
Because they needed to protect their dock and everything else.
The other thing is that he would recommend that you talk with Wackenshaw's committee, if you haven't already.
Go ahead.
Have that set up for September 5th.
Done.
Well, not the committee.
Right.
But just Wackenshall directly.
Okay.
But, if I get invited out or we get invited out of that, that will happen.
To the environmental
Yeah.
committee, you mean?
Yes, hopefully I get him to do it.
Go ahead and report some month numbers to him and see where it goes from there, but it sure didn't sound like he was gonna have any problems with it.
Okay, good. Did anyone else talk to their supervisors?
I sent it over.
You have a really important supervisor to talk to. And you can please, consider doing that. I did talk to Harity about the issue and also, EQUAC recommended this outreach project that LDS is now responding to. And at the presentation of the EQUAC recommendations, including the tidal wetlands outreach, Supervisor Harity called for reports on the progress of this going forward. He wants to know how this is going. And I have not written him a report yet because it seems to constantly be up in the air. But he reminded me that I should probably do that. And I am meeting with him Thursday.
I got some dates now, so at least we've got.
Yeah.
Can you share these slides, Kate?
Which sides?
The ones up there.
Can Sandra share those slides with the wetlands board?
Oh,
Oh, that's fine.
Andrew's still there.
The action item
She
was.
was online.
yeah, Sandra.
Yeah, I can, it can be shared. Katie, do you want to give it to them or do you want me to?
It doesn't matter.
And then let me also
Oh.
just mention that we are revised to. Clyde had slides that he presented for soil and water, and we're revising those, or making some recommendations for revisions for the discussion with Walkinshaw, and I could share that with the entire board if if anyone else is interested in having conversations with their supervisors.
Yeah, because I keep in touch with Stork and say, hey, we support. So if I can have some updates like this, that's great.
So a small reminder, and send things to everybody.
Right.
Just
Right.
That's what that's.
Yeah. Understood.
That's why I asked Katie. Good.
not get county attorney, especially since he's.
Right, yeah. Mark who?
Mark, do you have anything for us? Mark, I'm amazed you're still here. He's there.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush closing. Anybody have anything else?
Actually, you should think about, Mark, is there anything new on the lawsuit against wetland board? I guess the county.
If we're going to do that, if you would like that, probably need to request the county attorney brief us. And so let me ask, are you requesting the county attorney brief us?
If no one else is interested,
I actually am. So, yes.
seconded.
I don't think we need a vote on this. Catherine, can you communicate to Mark if you would like an update on the extant lawsuits? I'm sure Mark will want to do that in executive session.
Yeah, problem.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm free adjourned.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Starting on.
Going through discovery.
I don't think we are. Mark's still on.
We've done all,
Yeah.
so
Oh.
let us know, please. Thank you.
I, that'd be really nice.
We totally.